Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Tony Sirianni podcast. I'm thrilled to have my friend Adam Malamed with us today. Adam, welcome to the show, CEO of Sanctuary. Thanks for being
Yeah,
here.
CEO Sanctuary. Well, Tony, it is amazing to be here.
I appreciate it.
Always good to be with you, Tony.
Well, two boys from Brooklyn. I don't think we're going to have a hard time talking about what's going on. But when I look at, I think you're sort of in a unique position to sort of talk about some of the trends that we have. You have a lot of experience in M&A and banking, and of course a ton of experience in the RIA world and wealth management. And today the pressures are around AI, the pressures are around equity and what that means. And your firm has diversified over time, or you've created more optionality as time has moved on. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think Tony. I mean, you hit on a couple of different topics there. I think it's interesting. I always like to go back and think through the broadly defined independent space, even the terminology of independence, and 25 years ago when it wasn't cool to be independent, and how the industry has really evolved to touch so many different aspects of what it is that advisors that they want, that they're looking for. And Sanctuary has evolved its platform as well to provide advisors with choices for how they want to operate their business ultimately in the way that they feel is going to be best to serve their clients.
Yeah.
Advisors, Tony, you know that advisors are entrepreneurs, and
There's a spectrum of advisors being entrepreneurs. I think they're all entrepreneurs of some kind, but there are some guys who think they're entrepreneurs, they're really not, and they really need the structure of a firm. And then there are some guys who really are, and they just need to affiliate, right? I mean, that's the kind of a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, the structures of the firm, yes, you show me one advisor, I'll show you one advisor. They need different structures, different platforms, different technologies, different products. But what I find so interesting is more recently, over the past 5 to 10 years, these businesses have grown in such a big way, probably big, and I'm talking about on the independent side, bigger than an advisor probably ever thought that they would grow. And if you think about, the complexities of these growing businesses, do you have the right partner that is helping you manage the complexities that continue to change and evolve? Client needs continue to change and evolve. Technology changing more rapidly than it ever has before. And with these businesses getting so big and complex, are they managing the businesses the way that they foresee them for the future? I actually find it interesting. If you look at 85-90% of financial advisors in the industry, the businesses that they've built, the businesses that they now run and control, it's probably the largest asset on every one of their personal balance sheets.
There's no question. But you said 25 years ago, we've been in the business that long. It wasn't like that.
No, back then it wasn't like that at all. The businesses were for sure not complex. Independence was usually defined as somebody just leaving a large institution. And now independence, it touches so many different parts of the archetypes of the industry, whether it's a platform provider, whether somebody's making a minority investment into you, whether you're an RE aggregator, whether you're an RE integrator. I mean, the complexities of the change of the business go on and on.
That's the kind of thing in my mind. First of all, you've built if people don't know it, it's a wonderful, sophisticated platform. It really is just top notch, and for elite advisors, high net worth, ultra high net worth clients, right? It's really, I'm impressed with the platform. But now what can you have multi-platform? You bought another firm, right? And you have equity conversations, I'm sure, all the time with people one way or the other. How are you talking about that with advisors who come to you and want to know about it?
I mean, there's a couple of answers to your questions. Number one is, as much as we will provide choice and optionality we try to provide choice and optionality to the advisors that we serve, our clients. There's one thing that we will not change our options on, is serving, as you put it, the most sophisticated, the most elite advisors in the entire industry. I mean, they're the top of the industry. Consider our clients. Consider Sanctuary a luxury brand.
Yeah.
And that's just something that we'll never stray from. Where we try and give optionality is there's so many different avenues that an advisor can choose not only to operate their business, but even as you brought up, the way that they either want equity, they want to, the way that they want to treat their equity. Again, their most valued asset. And there's not just one size fits all. There's not one shape to what you provide.
But
And that's something.
you're a guy who can speak to that, and I'm not sure everybody else can. And so my concern revolves around advisors who don't get good advice. There's a cottage industry, and I know you've seen this too, of guys who get me out of this bad deal, right? And the sort of new bad guys are some of these private equity firms that are taking the place of the old wirehouse firms in terms of telling you what to do and how to do it and all that. And look, I'm not against PE. They're good PE too, but you're a sophisticated guy with experience in it. How do you expect an advisor to manage that process by himself?
Listen, I would, you and I, we have our debates. I would push back a little bit. And I think it's just I think that PE involvement, or I don't even like to call it private equity anymore because it's private credit, it's other different asset managers. Institutional investments into the
Yes.
industry has changed dramatically over the past 20 years. And I find it kind of interesting. Think about it. The back then there were really just PE investors 20 years ago in the industry. I would argue that they probably, if they didn't hold on to their investments or if they didn't have a long-term thesis on the investments, looking back now, 20, 25 years later, I'm going to assume that a lot of them are kicking themselves in the butt that they didn't maintain their investments for a longer term. As it relates to institutional investors in the industry, the ones that have a long-term thesis, that have a long-term thesis on wealth management, that have a long-term thesis on providing more services to high net worth, ultra high net worth, and even the mass affluents that are going to
Yeah.
change over time. I mean, those are incredible partners to have in your business.
And also, these guys are going to continue. Why would you want to, play with something that's not broken, right? I mean, these guys are successful already. Let them do what they do. Give them options. Give them platform. Give them stuff to grow.
I listen. I've always approached any M&A transaction in my career is, with, in my mind saying, why would you disrupt something that made a business so attractive that made you want to invest in it in the first place?
Right.
And I know that that's our way of looking at things at Sanctuary, and I know many others in the industry share that same philosophy.
Um, the other pressure on advisors, and I know you're well versed in this and have some thoughts around it, is AI and what's going on with it. There's, advisors have anxiety about it. I mean, naturally, I think, but they're certainly using it to sort of enhance what they're doing on a daily basis. Where do you see it going? What are you guys doing with it now? That kind of thing. And then I want to talk about regulation eventually.
Yeah, I would tell you that it's such an overused word, AI. I would be, intelligence tools in general. It's change is happening at a rapid pace. Let's just agree on that. I don't believe that the model of what we do every day is going to change that drastically in the next 2 to 5 years. And 25 years from now, yes, in the next 2 to 5 years, drastic change. That being said, can the utilization of intelligence tools significantly enhance how you deal with your clients? And I really bucket into three different areas. There's the efficiency gain, there's a productivity enhancements, and then there's growth enablement. And if you're able to utilize intelligence tools in a very safe way, and I'm going to get back to that, then the question becomes, okay, what are you doing with your additional time that you have? And that's really the question for the entrepreneur. It's the question for the advisors. We're giving you back all of this time. How are you using the time? Are you using the time to spend more time with clients, to bring on new clients, understanding how important organic growth is in the industry? Are you utilizing that time to focus more on organic growth?
Well,
I
see,
want
it
to just,
seems
Tony, I'm sorry. I just want to hit on one point here because I said using intelligence tools in a safe environment. I think we need to be talking about this more. The cyber threats in the industry because of the evolution of AI is something that I've never seen before. I caution advisors all the time on how you're utilizing these tools, on what kind of information, client information that you're putting into these tools. Are you ensuring that you're utilizing these tools in a safe environment? And I think our industry needs to do a little bit more talking about not only the AI tools themselves, but the safe utilization of them.
for sure. I mean, I'm not even sure that AI today. I can ask it what's the best ETF, and it'll give me the consensus answer that it thinks everyone else that for that day, right? It might be different the next day. But if I just Google it and I look at 3 different ETFs, I could pick my own. I mean, it's not there yet, in terms of
Yeah,
what it
for
needs to be.
sure.
The other thing is regulation. So if I'm Elizabeth Warren, I'm sitting on a panel, and an advisor comes, he's got a 401k, national pride 401k, and he wants a commission, and she says, no, you don't get a commission. You AI did this, right? Conversely, she could say, you want a commission on this, but you didn't use AI to check your work. I mean, where are we going to land on that? And I know you're head of, you're now, what is a chairman now of?
I'm going to be the incoming chair of the Financial Services Institute, which is the our advocacy body in Washington representing the independent financial advisors. I would tell you it's something we think about a lot. It's the regulation by enforcement, especially with new advanced technology. I mean, we've seen the playbook happen so many times
Yes.
in the past. It's something else our industry hasn't been talking enough about is tokenization, and
Yes. Yes.
how is the SEC or FINRA going to react and treat the tokenization of assets or our industry? So listen, I'm not saying I have the answers, but something very much I'm trying to keep my ears to the ground in Washington about.
We appreciate what you're doing with that too. That's great. You have some stuff going on at Sanctuary that, another anxiety point, not just to only talk about anxiety points. As these businesses grow, you said AI is creating efficiencies, businesses are, growing. A big concern is next gen, next gen advisors, next gen people. You guys have a program today, right, for advisors?
Yeah, we do. And I would say I'm happy to see. I think the industry is making strides, and I think that we're all trying to do our part of, you know, taking next generation advisors and, educate them, training them, giving them the tools and the resources to be successful. I think that the independent space has come a long way over the past 10
Yeah.
years in that, but I don't even think we're scratching the surface, Tony. We internally, we have a mentorship program. We partner with two significant universities. This summer, I was super happy to hear that throughout the Sanctuary Network, there was only 60 interns that were doing internships throughout the Sanctuary Network. But I don't know that we're doing enough yet as an industry. There continues to be the supply and demand imbalance of our industry. We all know the number of advisors set to depart the industry over the next 10 years. There's some really smart young talent that's coming into the industry, and I just worry that we're not set up with infrastructure to train them on all the skill sets necessary to bring the amount of next gen advisors into the industry, and then more importantly, for the next gen advisors to be supporting the next gen clients. I think the industry is doing good work. I think we need to do a little bit better there.
So that you're bringing up a point. I know you talk a lot about macro trends, the wealth transfer as it relates maybe to next gen. Let's talk a little bit about that, where you see things going there.
So it's another very interesting topic of conversation. I've been, along with everyone in the industry, has talked around, the great generational wealth transfer, 120 to 150 trillion of assets, which will transition over the next 20 years. I think that there's some competing data about how big those numbers really be if you start to segment the top 1% and
Yeah.
below that. But I think that, I think the bigger topic of conversation needs to turn to, are you really positioned to retain those assets? And there's a great statistic that I know everyone talks about, that 70% of people that inherit money change the financial advisor.
Right.
And I believe that each advisor in our industry, it's a deep philosophical question that they believe that they have the relationship with the next generation of the client. Um, do they really? It is a really big topic of conversation. Let's not turn a deaf ear to the 70% statistic. And let's understand, what are you doing internally to ensure that you are connected to that next generation of client?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is you've developed this very sophisticated platform. Things like estate plan, things like, that's how you can. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You're smarter than me on this, but I mean, that seems to me to be the way to connect with next gen, right? Create structures that are going to help them go forward, bring them in, let them understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's the democratization of the family office. It's offering all of the services, whether it's, estate planning, advanced planning, tax services,
Yes, yes, yes.
exit planning. But it's all of that, but all of those services, are they connected to the next generation of your client? The next generation, when your client, the eventuality of what happens with your client happens, are all the services that you've been providing your client, have they been, have they been offered, communicated, in a way to the next gen, where the next gen is completely connected to it, and that they view you as your advisor as well.
Right. Well, that critical. I mean, that's obviously going to be the future of our industry, one way or the other, right? We got to make that happen. I mean, look, believe it or not, we're getting to the end here. What else do you want to talk about, or what do you see coming down the road for our industry over the next short term? Because we're only thinking short term these days. I don't know why.
Yeah, listen, it's, looking out at, the industry and your business over the next 5 or 10 years, and understanding that technology, let's call it these intelligence tools, are going to drastically, enhance your ability to what you do. What are you going to do with that time? I think that's a big question that needs to be answered. The personalization of service,
Yeah,
personalization becoming so much more ingrained, what you do every day. How you're building out your team is another big topic of conversation. Our independent advisors has built these incredible businesses, highly profitable, highly sought after businesses. Are you spending enough money internally to ensure that you're bringing in next gen talent, to ensure that your business is transferable to the extent that you want some kind of liquidity, some kind of monetization? And that's an investment that, if you're an independent business owner, that's an investment you need to make in your business today.
makes your business
And
worth more, doesn't it? Right? I mean, geez.
I, I talk about it all the time. Sacrifice margins for growth and sustainability. For sure, I think our industry is going to do a lot more talking about that over the next 5 or 10 years than it has for the previous.
So two of the things you said, I don't want to take us too far down a trail here, but I think AI is going to push these service models. You mentioned tax and all this. So this advisor plus insurance, advisor plus tax, advisor plus, people are going to want more service. If I can look up, which as we just talked about, you can't really look up what's the best ETF and alternative investments, right? Because those are private markets. AI can't look at that. So I think somewhere in there, the service models and the private investments are going to, be pushed to the fore.
Yeah, listen, it's service models. It's what other services, but Tony, what other services? Well, 10 years ago were the amount of advisors offering the complete, the complete array of services, which they hopefully are offering today. And what will that service expansion look like over the next 10 years? I think it's going to expand in a pretty
Right.
significant way. Product offering, I think, is also going to evolve. I mean, you and I talk about alternative products all the time. What's the next evolution of that over the next 10 years? And ensuring that advisors have the capability to be able to offer all of those services, all of those products in a very personalized way to their clients, and not only the clients of today, but the clients of the future, I think is, yeah, a strategic benefit for them to focus on.
That's a high note, baby. We're gonna leave it at that. Thanks for being on the show, Adam. We'll talk about this again. Appreciate your insights. Thank you.
But Tony, always great to spend time with you and have conversations about an industry that you and I are both pretty passionate about.
Yeah, thanks.